Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. While he was thus absorbed in contemplation and was observing the supernatural power, two other forms were generated from his body. They are still celebrated as the body of Brahma. Purport. Two bodies came out of the body of Brahma. One had a mustache and the other had swollen breasts. No one can explain the source of their manifestation, and therefore until today they are known as the Kayam, or the body of Brahma, with no indication of their relationship as his son or daughter. Very mystical. So let's do our Mangala Charana and then we'll start discussion. Om Jnantimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Sa Advaitam Sa Avadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kant Radha Kant Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Ajanulambitavaju Kanakavadhato Sankirtane Kapitaro Kamalayataksho Vishwambharo Dvijabharo Yugadharmapalo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karuna Avataro Yantah Pravishya Mama Chamimam Prasuptam Sanjeevayatya Akhila Shaktidhara Sudhamna Anyamscha Hastacharana Shravanatvagadin Pranannamo Bhagavate Purushaya Tubhyam. Thank you. I seek your blessings before I speak something on this interesting, mystical, little bit of difference of opinions type of subject. So the background of this is, which will set the theme for today's discussion. We'll just quickly go through that. So Brahmaji created 5 types of avidya, as we have seen in our earlier discussions, earlier classes, so that conditioned souls can be absorbed in this material world. But he was not very happy since it's an unpleasant creation. Then he created Vidya, and that created 4 Kumaras. They refused to create the progeny, which was the actual purpose of creating this manifestation. And then he became angry, as we know, and then Rudra came out. And then, why? Because all the controlled anger, because he wasn't happy. And then he asked Rudra to create progeny. And then what happened, we all know, that he created progeny according to his in charge of the mode of ignorance, and they created havoc. And then the episode of Vak happened. And then because of the association of his great, very elevated sons, he came out of it. And then he created all the Vedic literature, the Itihasas, the Puranas, Vedas, everything. And so here Maitreya Rishi is telling us that even if there is a small mistake of a great personality, it is not a fall down. It was a temporary situation created by the Lord to teach us the lesson about the power of the senses. And if a devotee has a right association, which is his elevated sons, the situation gets rectified very quickly. So these 3 verses we are going to talk about. what is the crux from the first verse? Lord Brahma was not very much satisfied with sages and rishis he created, and he thought they were not good enough to increase the progeny or the living entities who are in the pipeline to enter in this universe. They were not getting the opportunity. And then the 51st verse, the lesson to learn is there were many Jivatmas ready, as we just said, to enter this universe, but Lord Brahma was not finding the right channel to bring them in. And here he is glorifying his sons and implicitly his father, but at the same time he is talking about the destiny, that he is not in control, which is an acknowledgement of the imperfections in this material universe. And the next verse, which we chanted today together, elaborates this point further. In 52nd verse, Lord Brahma repeatedly had to stop and think. And that is the limitation of the Jivatma, that we are not complete. Unlike the Supreme Lord, if we saw in the Sarga part earlier, that Lord just manifests, which is from his pores, the universe has come, and then that's the supremacy, that he's omnipotent, he's omniscient, he's omnibenevolent, he's omnipresent, and that's the quality only with the Supreme Lord and not with Jivatma, and that's the main aspect of what we will be discussing today. Devotees necessarily don't know everything the way Krishna knows everything, and that's the main idea. As Queen Kunti says in her prayers, especially in her initial prayers, where she says, Namasya Purusham Tvadyam Ishwaram Prakrute Param Alaksham Sarva Bhutanam Antarbahiravastitam. So she says, Namasya Purusham Tva Adyam, the original Purusha, the Supreme Lord, to Alaksham Sarva Bhutanam. All other living entities, they may not understand that yes, he is the controller. Antarbahiravastitam. And Lord himself says that in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the famous verse, Bhairantascha bhutanam charam charam evacha. Inside and out, I am there. Chara achara, moving, non-moving. Charam charam evacha. Sukshmatvat tadavidneyam. Minutest of the minute. Sukshma, the micro, nano, pico, whatever today's terminologies are. Tadavidneyam, and the largest of the largest, what we can imagine. Durastham chantike chatat. As long as possible, the farthest possible and the closest possible, he is there. That is the omniscient, omnipotent nature of the Supreme Lord. He confirms that. And then, while doing a little bit of homework, I found an amazing verse. It's a prayer by Akrur. So let's chant that prayer together. It's very beautiful, very purifying. Please repeat after me. Namah Krishnaya Shuddhaya Brahmane Paramatmane Yogeshwaraya Yogaya Tvamaham Sharanam Gata. Let me read the translation. I offer my obeisances unto you, Krishna, the supreme, pure, the absolute truth, and the super soul, the Lord of pure devotional service and the source of all knowledge. I have come to you for shelter. Very, very beautiful prayer, right? In the purport of this prayer, there is a confirmation from Upanishad, Mundak Upanishad 1.3. Yasmin vidnyate sarvam evam vidnyatam bhavati. What this means is, when the absolute is understood, everything is understood. Thus, Lord Krishna himself, by his spiritual potency, establishes our connection with him, and that connection is the source of all spiritual knowledge. So, we can see the corroboration of the Siddhanta that Jivatma is eternally dependent on the Paramatma, on the Supreme Lord. And in Akrura's prayers, the basic principle of three aspects of the Lord, Shuddhaya Brahmane Paramatmane, the supreme Shuddha Brahma is the Lord himself. Paramatma, the super soul, is Lord himself. Absolute truth and the super soul is Lord himself. And then he says, Yogeshwaraya Yogaya. What is yoga? To connect, to add. So who is whom to add? Ishvara. Yoga Ishvara is Lord himself. So he's offering that prayer to Krishna. Namah Krishnaya Shuddhaya. Yogeshwaraya Yogaya. I want to connect with you. Twamaham Sharanam Gata. Aham, he's talking about himself. Twam, to you. Sharanam, surrender unto you. Gata. So very beautiful prayer to meditate on. It means the living entity never becomes omnipotent and omniscient. I'm eternally dependent on you. Every pure devotee has that mood that I am always connected to you. I am always dependent on you. And we are eternally dependent on him. That's what the mood is. He has confirmed that in the 13th chapter again and again. Upadrashta tumantacha bharta bhokta maheshwara. I am the enjoyer. I am the upadrashta. Anumanta. I am giving all the permissions to you to do whatever you want. But finally, I am the enjoyer of your body, of your existence as well. And what that means is, if you are connected to me, automatically the enjoyment will come. You will be happy, that there will be bliss. And that's a very interesting idea of dependency, which is very much emphasized in our sampradaya, Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Vaishnava sampradaya. Creating the universe is not done independently. That's what all Vaishnava Sampradaya, everyone agrees. He's just carrying out the plan which is already created or chalked out by the Supreme Lord in a Visarga. Sarga part, we have seen that Lord is creating everything on his own. Visarga, when Lord Brahma is coming in the picture, he's just executing the plan which is chalked out by the Lord. And that's where the confusion of Lord Brahma comes, that he has to stop. He is bewildered, he is perplexed. It's not working according to his ideas, because he had to stop. Oh, okay, I have to increase the progeny. That's the plan which is chalked out, given me the blueprint. But still, it's not working out. So what shall I do? That's the confusion, Lord Brahma. And he has to stop. He had to stop and think. And that's the 52nd verse we talked about. So at times we may come across the differences of opinions between Vaishnava Sampradaya, especially when there is a Aishwarya Bhav and ours is more of a Madhurya Ras. So for this particular, other Vaishnava Sampradaya, why there is a difference, and it's not wrong. It's not something one is right and other is wrong. Both are right in their own perspective, but there will be a difference of opinion. And that, as Srila Prabhupada always emphasizes, on transcendental variegatedness. And that's the beauty of this. We find a lot of contradictions, as Srila Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, he explains in some of his lectures. He says that in Aishwarya Bhav and in our Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya's Vipralamba Bhav, he says that we have that absolute dependency, the source of knowledge. We are always dependent on the Supreme Lord. He will empower us. He will let us know what we need, and accordingly we will work. We are surrendered to the Lord, and that's the second verse from Queen Kunti's prayer. Maya javanika chandam adnya adhoksha jamavyam nalakshase mudhadrusha nato natya dhroyatha. Very beautifully she says that Maya javanika chandam, all this Maya is, there is somebody who is behind the curtains, who is the supreme puppeteer. Adnya adhoksha jamavyam. Adnya, the dnya means knowing. The person who does not know that adha aksha, that just by his glance, everything is moving, everything is happening. Avyayam, continuously. Na lakshase mudhadrusha. The person who is a fool, who does not get that point. Nato natya dharo yatha. The actor, the director, the organizer, who is a script writer, everything, of this whole natya is the Supreme Lord. That's what she says in the second verse of her prayer. And so what is the difference here? Let's take the example of some of the Sri Vaishnava Acharyas. They say that as soon as the Jivatma is in a pure state, a pure devotee, he has a complete knowledge, and his liberated Jivatma is not limited to specific abilities or any limitations. But that's where the mood of rasa changes. According to them, liberated Jivatma should be able to enjoy all the rasas, all the mellows. And we say that is the prerogative of the God, of Krishna. And if he wants to engage us in a specific mellow, in specific rasa, he will provide the facilities and knowledge. And Lord Brahma says that earlier in the 9th chapter. We are in the 12th one, the 9th chapter. He says, Tadva idam bhuvana mangala mangalaya. Everything is auspicious when we are connected to Lord. Dhyanesmano darshitam to upasakanam. When we are meditating on the Supreme Lord, and we see his presence in everything, what our objective is, using every facility he has given in this world, dhyanesmano darshitam to upasakanam. We are supposed to worship him and follow what he wants. Dhyana. We should be meditating on that. Tasmai namo bhagavate nuvidhema tubhyam. To that Supreme Lord, I offer my respectful obeisances. Lord Brahma says, I think it's a 4th or 5th verse, I need to check, in the 9th chapter. And then he says something very interesting. Yonadruto naraka bhagbhir asat prasangaihi. The person who does not understand this, that he is the organizer, and according to his wish, all the facilities we are supposed to follow his plan, his rules, and worship him, that person is making his way to hell. He is going towards hellish planets. That's an amazing statement, that the person who is not following who is not in a mood of surrender to Krishna, he is making his way towards hell. Lord Brahma says this, the creator. So, amazing verse. Where we get this in Vedanta Sutra, which is the commentary all 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas have followed. And that's where all their, for example, Paribhasha Sutra and Shankaracharya wrote, what is that? Sharirika Bhashya and all that. But Srimad Bhagavatam is a case study, and that's where we get this clarity of this Pramana Amalam. And hence, Lord Brahma does not have the full prerogative, what we get from Srimad Bhagavatam, to create the universe. In the 9th chapter of this 3rd canto, we get the details of Lord Brahma's beautiful prayers in this mood. Where to meditate on, where to understand this, where to get this clarity. That's the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. Janmadhyasya yatonvayad itarataschartheshva abhidnyaswarat. Tene brahmarudaya adikavaye. So this comes to the point that in the heart of Lord Brahma, Chaitya Guru, Supreme Lord, he revealed the knowledge what was needed for Lord to execute the plan of the Lord. It was not Lord Brahma was completely aware of everything. And that's what Srimad Bhagavatam is telling us in the beginning itself. That's the first point. He can do everything without knowing everything. How can someone do everything? Shri Radha Kulanda Bhagwan ki jai, Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai, Nitai ki jai. So our philosophy of living entity never retains the given knowledge all the time. And that's where so far we have been discussing the principle. Now we will come to the Leela part of the Lord. We say that gopis or Brajavasis do not know that Krishna is God. But as a principle, as a liberated Jivatma, they of course know that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. But, or Ayodhyavasis, where they were worried or they were quite sad, devastated when Lord Rama was going to forest for 14 years, and they were worried that those hardships and the tough life, how that's the sadness they had. Why? They know that he is the Supreme Lord. Wherever he goes, he carries all the opulences, everything. And still, Ayodhyavasis were sad. Brajavasis were worried about Krishna. Why? Because that mood of Yogamaya has induced the ignorance in the heart of that Jivatma, which intensifies that pure sweetness, the bliss of that relationship. And that's the wonderful part, that Jivatma comes under that influence of Yogamaya. Willingly he surrenders to develop that blissful relationship with the Lord, and to enjoy that blissful relationship. And we can see that in several case studies in our scriptures. What living entity needs to know depends on the Supreme Lord, on Krishna, and because he only knows perfectly what is needed to perform that Leela. Before the battle of Mahabharat, Arjun was in quote unquote ignorance. So we can say he was confused after the battlefield, and then Lord Krishna gave him all the instructions in Bhagavad Gita, all the 18 chapters. And then whose turn was that later on, getting confused and was in a mood of ignorance, or in a mood of ignorance? Yudhishthir Maharaj. And then Lord made a facility through Bhishma Dev to deliver the knowledge to Yudhishthir Maharaj. And then he was pacified. So, isn't that something, the beautiful craftsmanship, or the puppeteer who is giving the knowledge either himself or through his devotees to remove that cloud of ignorance? What is the difference then here, Yogamaya and Mahamaya? What do you think? We are all, Jivatmas in the material world are also in ignorance, and the liberated soul also comes under that cloud of ignorance. What's the difference? Yeah.
Mahama is covering our understanding of Krishna because we have a desire to enjoy separately from him.
Yes.
And for the liberated souls, because they have a desire to serve Krishna, then Yogamaya is acting to enhance the relationship.
Absolutely, yeah. So the basic principle is, when Mahamaya is acting, the Jivatma gets the sufferings. She is not benign. There is a suffering because we are not connected to the Lord. Whereas when Yogamaya is organizing everything, she is benign. There is no suffering to that Jivatma. The principle of eternity is already established with the liberated soul, with the pure devotee. Whereas in our case, the principle of eternity is not established. And that's why there is hesitation. Example is, if there is a drama with all dimensions possible, and in that drama we all are acting, there is a liberated soul, the pure devotee is also acting in the drama, and the materially conditioned soul is also acting in the drama. There will be hesitation to act 100%. By whom? By the materially conditioned soul. But the person who is liberated personality, who is a pure devotee, he knows that, yes, there is the Supreme Lord, I am eternally connected to him, and that Param Brahma Param Dhama Pavitram Paramam Bhavan. Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam Majam Vibham, as Arjun says that. Yes, you are the Supreme Lord, and then that acting in that drama will be 100%. Where is the bliss? Where is the rasa? That the relation between the pure devotee and the Supreme Lord, that's where the bliss is. And that's what this basis of the difference between acting under the influence of Yogamaya and Mahamaya. Devaki and Vasudev will get in the small nitty-gritties in this perspective. Had an understanding that Krishna is God, whereas Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj didn't have the same understanding. Hence, the relationship is sweetest when that intense cloud of Yogamaya is there between the relationship of Supreme Lord and Nanda and Mother Yashoda. And that's why Vrajabhumi mood is the epitome of all rasas. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that in Chaitanya Matha Manjusha, Aradhya Bhagwan Brajesha Tanayas Tadhama Vrindavanam. Whom do we worship? Aradhana of whom we do? Brajesha Tanayas, who is the Lord of Vrindavan. Tadhama Vrindavanam. And we worship that Vrindavan Dham. Sadhama Vrindavanam. Ramya Kachita Upasana Vrajavadhu Vargenaya Kalpita. Where the mood of the supreme worship, the supreme rasa is there. Ramya Kachita Upasana Vrajavadhu. All the gopis have surrendered themselves. Vargenaya Kalpita. We cannot even... that's beyond anybody's imagination. Srimad Bhagavatam Pramana Amalam, we find that the supreme bliss in Srimad Bhagavatam, who says that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Matamidam Tatradara Napara. There is nothing higher than that, because that is the opinion of the Supreme Lord himself. So we can see that in the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela as well. The similar pattern of in his early pastime, he was recognized as an ordinary scholar, and then his eternal associates were thinking the same in earlier days. Why? Because again, there is a covering of Yogamaya. Gradually, he began to reveal himself, and first he started revealing himself privately in Srivas Pandita's house, the Sankirtan party, and then gradually he revealed himself publicly. That was his Leela. What are the examples of in Mahaprabhu's Leela where he revealed himself to his eternal associates publicly, or very in a gradual stage? Yes. That was again happening in more of a private. This is the example I was referring to is Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who was initially impersonalist, and then Lord revealed. He is his eternal associate, Prakashananda Saraswati, the devotees, the Mayavadis in Varanasi. So that's how he revealed himself, that he removed that cloud of Yogamaya, and he revealed himself as the Supreme Lord. And that's how the bliss was established. So, as Rupa Goswami says in his, as per the instructions of Sriman Mahaprabhu, is our path of jnana and karma he doesn't even consider that as the secondary aspects of devotion service. Our path of jnana and karma has to be connected to bhakti. If it is not, then he just simply rejects that. And we can see that again and again in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and all his literatures. Why? Because the mood of unconditional surrender of bhakti does not become the main consideration if we are considering the path of jnana, just gaining the knowledge. That's why he rejects that. As Mahaprabhu says in the last verse of Shikshashtakam, Yatha tathava vidadhatu lampato mat prananathastu saevanapara. That my Lord, if it is decided, if that's the bhakti, I have that relationship with him, I may not understand his plan, his Divanchi, his whomever you are, but still you trample me or you embrace me, still you are my Lord birth after birth. Yathada thava vidadhatu lampato. Mat prananathastu saevanapara. And Lord confirms that in Bhagavad Gita at several places, that He gives the knowledge of how to connect to Him, how to surrender to Him. Where? In Chatushloki Gita, the 10th verse, Tesham satadayuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam. When we have that connection of pritipurvakam, dadami buddhi yogam tam. He will give that buddhi to connect with Him. Yenamam upayantite. And then he says, once we have that buddhi to connect to Him, then the next part comes, Teshamevanukampartham ahamadnyanajam tamaha. That I will impart that knowledge and remove that cloud of ignorance. Whether that cloud of ignorance is for the sadhakas like us or for the pure devotee who is part of the Leela, Lord is the supreme puppeteer. He will take care of it. So, how to understand this? Every morning when we get up from the bed, Krishna helps us to understand who we are, what is my existence, what our surrounding is, what everything around us is, and that knowledge comes from whom? From the Lord within the heart. Upadrashtanumantacha bharta bhokta maheshwara. So, today's world is AI world, so we have few minutes, and I fed everything, all my notes to Sam Altman's creation called ChatGPT, and that's where I got the points for the conclusion of what we should be taking away from today's verse. So, context setting, we saw that creation narrated by Maitreya Rishi, focus verses today's verse 50 and 51, 50, 51, 52. Theme is Brahma challenges in creation and dependence on divine will. Even ChatGPT understood this, so we need to understand definitely. So Brahma saw that in spite of great sages, population was not increasing. The lesson for us, even empowered beings, face limitations. Verse number 51, lesson, acceptance of divine will over personal endeavor. 52nd verse, which was our today's meditation, two forms manifested from Brahma's body. People can speculate and try to relate to the parallel theories of Adam and Eve and Swayambhuva Manu and Shatarupa, which is going to come from tomorrow probably. What's the purport is telling us? Inexplicable manifestation, sign of divine arrangement. And Brahma's journey of creation, he created avidya's ignorance, unpleasant but necessary, created vidya, 4 kumaras, refused to procreate, and then anger, rudra, progeny suitable for destruction, which was necessary for the creation, but not, it was a wrong time. And that's again the bewilderment of Lord Brahma, then the Vak episode of his daughter, and then how it was handled by his sons. Again, what it teaches us is the dependency of the Supreme Lord. Then he composed Vedas, Puranas, Ithihasas. What is the theological insight? Even great personalities like Lord Brahma face challenges. Mistakes of devotees are temporary lessons. Right association rectifies mistakes quickly. Dependence on Krishna. That's the important theme for the meditation today. It's finishing in literally 1 minute. So Brahma acknowledges limitation, destiny as an obstruction. Jiva is never omniscient, omnipotent, omnibenevolent, benevolent, and omnipresent. It's the right terms and conditions all preserved by the Supreme Lord himself, not for us. And knowledge comes only from Krishna. Bhagavad Gita 10.10, 10.11, and 15.15. All the Sarvasya Chaham, everything. We know all these verses quite well. Supporting references, again, Queen Kunti's prayers we talked about. Limited knowledge of devotees and the beautiful Akrura's prayers we went through. Mundakupanishad, Yasmin Vidnyate Sarvamemam Vidnyatam. And then philosophy of knowledge. Only Krishna is avidnya, omniscient, and Swarat, independent. We all are dependent on him eternally. Jiva's knowledge is always dependent, situational, and relative. Yogamaya and Mahamaya we talked about. What is the difference and what is the Yogmaya's role? Covers knowledge to deepen rasa, the mellows. Brajavasi's ignorance of Krishna's divinity, which is the sweetest love. Example, Yashoda Mai binding Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela, early pastimes, he was ordinary scholar, then gradual revelation to his associates. Highest ecstasy is the Vipralamba Bhav, union in separation, what he taught all of us. We don't have time, otherwise Jiva Goswami gives a very beautiful insight on that. Maybe some other time. Practical lessons, do not rely on jnana or karma alone. Bhakti is the unconditional surrender. Rupa Goswami warns against the distractions from pure devotion if we follow that path of jnana or karma. Key takeaways, even Brahma depends on Krishna. If the Acharya, the Paramacharya of our Sampradaya, he is dependent on Krishna, then we don't have much of choice. We have to depend on the Supreme Lord every single moment of our life. Jiva's knowledge and power are limited. Yogamaya creates sweet transcendental ignorance, which is necessary for all of us. We talked about that Natya, the drama. Pure devotion surpasses jnana and karma. Destiny is subordinate to Krishna's will. And closing reflection is Satyam Param Dhimahi. Let us meditate on that absolute truth constantly. Message is our perfection lies in surrendering to Krishna's will. That's all from ChatGPT, which is, I can stop here. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments or additions?
Is this where Brahma, because of his vision of Krishna, he brought the Brahma Samhita into play, which Lord Chaitanya discovered. So that's his knowledge to rescue us.
I'm not 100% sure because which kalpa and when it happened. Was it in the beginning of the creation or it happened later in a partial pralaya? Yeah. I'm not sure. I need to do a bit of a homework on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or?
Hare Krishna. You quoted that verse, Aradhya Bhagavan Brajesh Tanyas.
Yeah.
So that verse says that the highest type of worship is that which the gopis did.
Yeah.
And the proof is the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
So I was wondering how the Bhagavatam proves that the highest type of worship is the gopis' worship.
10th canto very elaborately explains that how their mood of surrender was, and that what we talked about, the cloud of Yogamaya, the ignorance, and that's where the Lord establishes that sweetest relationship between gopis and himself. So they break all the social norms, and their mood of surrender is, yes, you are, whatever you desire, you are the supreme puppeteer. We will just follow your orders. So that's the worship. There is no hesitation. And then I think in one of the lectures I was listening to, most likely I think it's His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj. He says that there is no formal relationship, if we observe, of any mellows between Supreme Lord and his devotee in Vrindavan Dham. There is no formal relationship. It is not bound by any formal. And still, they accept everything as it is, what his plan is. They just surrender to that will of the arrangement of Yogamaya. And even Mother Rukmini, she complains that you should not treat my brother like this and all that. Of course, as a wife of the Lord in Swakiya Ras, there will be some kind of complaint. No. They're from my parent side, and then you should be careful and all that. Every wife does that. But here in Vrindavan Dham, there is no complaint at all. So that's the Ramya Kachito Upasana Vrajodhu Vargenaya Kalpita. That's what we can think of. Makes sense? Yeah.
The dust.
Oh, yes, Narad Muni. Yeah, that's another beautiful example. I haven't come across that story in detail. Lot of, for example, Arjun getting understanding of Vrindavan mood is there in Padma Puran, in very detailed. Padma Puran has various versions. One copy has 78,000 verses, another has some 92,000 verses. Some people say there is a prakshep, there is some kind of addition later or whatever.
And also the other one is Uddhava, when he goes to Vrindavan. He's in Bhagavatam, he's describing how dear Uddhava is to Krishna more than his own brother and so on. But when he's sent to Vrindavan, he understands what real love is when he sees the love of the gopis.
Yeah, let me be the insect, let me be the trina, the blade of grass in Vrindavan. He says that. Yeah. Thank you. Any other? Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Anchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti Vaishnava.